Hi friends! Tonight we are going to paint a fun springtime forest. You are going to need blue, teal, green, black, white, purple, and yellow. Don't forget about my three favorite brushes, a medium flat brush, and then a medium and small round brush, a rag for keeping your brush clean, and a cup of water for rinsing your brush. Let's go ahead and get our background on here. With my medium round brush, I am going to take this teal color paint, and I'm going to make two lines right here. So if you look, this is about a third of my canvas right here in the middle. I'm then going to take those lines and I'm going to make them kind of go like this. So if you think about it, it kind of looks like your leg and your heel. You see that? Leg, heel. And I'm going to paint this whole thing in with a mixture of both white and teal. I want this to be pretty light, but I'm also going to add just a spot of blue. Now that I have that finished, I'm going to start without washing my brush off with blue paint on these edges, and I'm just going to kind of pull this color in, and when I get to my teal color, I'm going to blend them. And how I blend my brush or my paint is I'm just going to wipe my brush off, and I'm going to go along these two lines several times until it makes a nice seamless transition. And then I'm going to pull some of that dark blue into my light blue, and then some of that light blue into my dark blue. Now that we've got this great color combination going, I'm going to take some purple and I'm going to go along these edges and darken them up just a little bit more with some purple. All right, we're going to let this dry. When we come back, we are going to start to add in our second layer of color. Now with the dry background, I'm going to add my second layer of background in. So this down here is going to be water, and up here is going to be a forest. So I'm going to take my black paint on my medium flat brush, and I'm going to make a line where my ground ends, and it's going to be about a third of the way up on the canvas, and I'm just going to go in until it gets to be light blue. Now from here, we want to make a very jagged edge because we want it to look like there's water in this space. So I'm going to pull some of these lines in, and some of them I'm going to leave back further. And we're going to wash off our brush. We're going to lay in some of our trees. So I'm going to move on to my medium round brush, and I am going to start by laying in trees that are a light gray. So I'm going to take some white on my palette and a little bit of black, and I'm going to lay in some gray trees. Now these trees are going to be the furthest in the background, and so they're not really going to have much detail to them, but they are just going to be a couple of lines that go straight up. And you can choose to use your medium flat brush, your medium round brush like I am, or you can switch to a small round brush to get a little bit more narrow trees. Just take them right off the top of your canvas. Now I'm going to take a little bit of blue and put it in with that gray mixture, so I'm going to have more of a bluish gray tree. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add a couple more trees in. And these trees I can even bring down onto my black area. Especially with it still being wet, you get a really great bark look to it. Wash that brush off, and I am going to move to my medium round brush because I am going to go ahead and add a couple of branches to these trees, these darker trees. And these branches, I'm not going to have a whole lot of detail, but I do want to add just a couple branches in. So I've got that grayish blue black mixture. I like to make my branches look like the letter Y. So they kind of go up on your tree at a letter Y. Wash that brush off, and then with some white paint, I'm going to add some trees that are just kind of, they look like they're almost floating back here. So you kind of see them, but you kind of don't, because these guys are way back in the way back. And then we're going to put in our tree branch that is going to be holding our lantern. So wash that brush off really well, and I'm going to use black paint to make my tree branch. So I'm gonna have a tree branch that just kind of comes off this way and tilts over, so we're just gonna kind of go up over here. Add a couple of little twigs on him. Remember, your twig should not be straight, especially not when you're this close to looking at the tree branch. The twig should definitely be a little bit more jagged and crooked. Now down here in our water, we do want to help it look a little bit more like water. So I take a very, very, very dry flat brush. So I'm going to dry it off really good. A very dry flat brush, and I'm going to put a little bit of paint on it, and then I'm going to wipe that paint off. This is a dry brush technique, so wipe that paint off so there's almost none on there. And then when you pull it across, you get very little paint that comes off. So you can put it horizontal on your canvas and you get just a little bit of paint, or you can put it straight on there and you get a little bit more. But what we're going to do is we're going to use a series of the dark blue, the white, and maybe even a little bit of purple to add just a couple of lines on our water, so it looks as though there's a little bit of reflection going on. then with my itty bitty brush, right along the edges of the, I'm just gonna drop a couple of spots of white, not a lot. I just want it to look like there might be a little bit of movement along that bank. Just a couple of spots of white. And then let's talk about that green. So same kind of idea with this brush, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull these bristles apart, okay? This is why I do not buy the most expensive brushes, because I like to be able to mess with them a little bit. Pull those bristles apart so that I can take a little bit of green paint on the very edge of my brush, so almost none. Tap it down on my paint palette to get rid of any extras, and then I'm gonna put just a little bit of green right here in my black grass. All right, we are gonna let this dry. When we come back, we are gonna add in our ball jar hanging from our tree and our words. Now that we have a nice dry background, let's lay out where we're going to put our ball jar. Now I'm gonna put one ball jar, but you can absolutely add more than one. It's the same technique. So I'm gonna use my medium round brush with white paint, and I am going to make mine hanging just a little off center. I don't like things being centered, so just a little bit off center. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a rectangle right here. Paint this in white. Now from there, I'm gonna make the lip of my ball jar. So I'm just gonna make a small curve and then a rectangle on top. And the bottom is also gonna be just slightly rounded. Now I do want it to look like there's some of this color in the background, so I'm actually gonna add in some teal and blue. And I'm just gonna brush these colors in, maybe even some purple. So I want these colors to be kind of layered in there, not all the way mixed up, but mixed up enough that I've got some light on this left side and some dark on the right side. Wash that brush off. I'm gonna go in with a little bit of black paint. So I'm gonna water my black paint down just a little bit. I like to wash my brush and just kind of keep some of that black paint on my brush, because I think the black paint goes on better when it's a little bit thin. So I'm gonna make my loop that hooks over my tree. So I'm going to start right here at the base, and I'm just going to have it go up over the front. And it'll fall back down on the opposite side. Same color, I'm going to add just a couple of very dark lines in here. This looks like a little smiley face. Add a couple more of those right on in here. And then usually we put highlights on these, but we're actually adding lowlights because it's nighttime. So a little backwards L there. Sorry, backwards L here, an L shape there. Just a couple of straight lines through here to show that we're picking up some of that darkness from the sky. Even up here on our edges. Let's go ahead and finish this picture up. I did let my ball jar dry really well so that I know I didn't have any issues with my paint smearing and schmearing. So I'm gonna finger paint my light in my ball jar. And I'm gonna do that just by adding a couple of dabs. And if you look, I'm making kind of like a backwards letter L area. Then I'm gonna take some yellow and I'm gonna add it on there. So what I'm really looking for is an area of yellowish white. And as I kind of pull my finger up and away, the color starts to dissipate. Then I'm going to do the same yellow color with the back of my brush. I'm going to put a couple of little fireflies out here in the woods. I'm also going to take the top of my medium round brush and kind of throw those bristles out a little bit and add just a little bit of green up here at the top. I don't want to overkill this with green, but I do want it to look like spring. So at the very top, or where my branches are just kind of peeking out, I'm going to throw just a little bit of green on here. Last but not least, I am going to write a word on here. You do not have to write a word on yours, but I really want my ball jar to have the word shine on it. So I'm going to water my black paint down. I want it to be nice and thin. You can use black paint or you can wait till it's dry and use a Sharpie. But I'm going to write the word shine on here. Clean up one of these little guys right here. Some of that yellow had a little tail on it, so I got my paintbrush just with water on it, and it will usually pull up paint that is somewhat fresh. It's a little bit dry, but a little bit fresh. There we go. Came up. Perfect. All right, last thing you have to do, find a color that will stand out on your artwork, and be sure to sign your name. You know, the only way we ever get to see what you're making at home is if you share it with us on our Facebook page. So you go to Painting with a Purpose and become friends with us, and then post your picture in our newsfeed. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you're kept up to date on all of our latest videos and tutorials. And as always, stay kind, stay creative, and stay safe. I just felt like I needed a little bit of highlight on here. So I thought I was done, but you know, sometimes I just keep painting. But like I was saying, stay kind, stay safe, and stay creative. Thanks for joining me today. Have a great day, friends. Bye.